Ever since I started touching stuff in games, I've been getting a ton of requests for Kirby. But simply touching grass in every Kirby game would be way too easy. So that's why today we'll be seeing how fast you can touch grass, water, and fire in every Kirby game, starting with Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy. All right, let's drop down from the sky and touch some grass right away. So Kirby's Dream Land is a very short game. You can beat the entire thing in like 20 minutes. There's also no copy ability, so we gotta rely on our stinky breath to progress. Also, to my knowledge, there's no fire in this game, so the closest thing we can do is touch the explosion from this bomb here. For water, after spitting some apples at a tree, we'll make our way to Castle Lololololol and go for a swim in one of their lovely indoor pools. On to Kirby's Adventure, where, again, there's grass right away. This is going to be a recurring theme in these games. Now let's do the same thing as Dreamland and fly through the level to save a little time. But hold on, this guy looks friendly. Let's stop and say hello. For water, we'll just continue along the first stage, and I'm not going to count this because the waterfall is only in the background here. But we don't have to wait too much longer because there's a nice tomato-scented bath a little further ahead. Next up is Kirby's Dream Land 2, where we begin our journey in Grassland. And I guess the grass here is yellow, but that still counts. From here, we'll make our way through stage 1 over to stage 2, where we can swallow this flaming ball to touch fire. After that, we'll make a nice rodent friend and head over to stage 3, where we can dive into some... Wait, that's not water? Oh no, I just killed a poor innocent hamster. Anyways, we can touch some nice yellow water over here. At least I hope it's water. On to Kirby Superstar, where we have a few different options, but let's start with Spring Breeze, where unsurprisingly, we can touch this really flat, solid grass right away. Kirby Superstar is the first Kirby game I ever played, so I have a ton of fond memories playing it as a kid with my older brother. As the younger one though, I would always be player 2, so I remember nagging my brother to give me all the powers I wanted to play as, and for some reason he was usually nice enough to accommodate me. Anyways, in Spring Breeze, we can touch water pretty early on by chucking some bombs at a tree, then taking a swim at the beginning of stage 2. And then finally we can touch fire by jumping into this fire enemy here. As for the other game modes, Dynablade, the Great Cave Offensive, and Gourmet Race, it was really quick to touch grass and water, but much longer to touch fire, so overall Spring Breeze is the best for this. Now we've got Kirby's Dream Land 3, where in stage 1, after touching some grass, we ditch our hamster friend in favor of a cat, who rolls us around until we eventually reach this little fire guy in stage 2. From here, we'll hitch a ride on this bird who can speed us through stage 3 onto stage 4, where we can touch the tears of this cloud's tears. Onto Kirby 64, the Crystal Shards. And oh wow, we actually didn't start the game on grass. Okay, well, anyways, for fire, we can... You know, I always thought the mechanic of this game was super cool. I loved experimenting with all the different combinations of abilities, but we don't have time for that right now since we've got some water to touch. Next up is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, and that's 2 games in a row now where we don't start on grass. So after making our way through the intro cloud stage and following this Shadow Clone Jutsu Meta Knight, we can finally touch grass after a whopping 1 minute 15 seconds. From here, a little further ahead, we can enjoy the company of our new fire friend, and then take a swim in this little pond a few screens later. So I've actually never played Kirby Canvas Curse before, but I'm sure I'll pick up the controls quickly. Well, at least we touched grass. All right, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have no clue where I'm going, but I feel like I should be going to the right. For fire, there's an enemy here in the second stage we can touch. Water, however, is surprisingly more difficult to find in Canvas Curse. In the third stage, we have these waterfalls, but they only appear in the foreground. There's also these tiles here that I think might be made out of water or some kind of bubble, but we can do better than that. So let's make our way through Ravine Road, Ghost Grounds, Growth Grasses, touch some bonus fire in Mag Mount, before finally being able to touch water in Contrast Cave 26 minutes into the game. Alright, let's get back to a more conventional Kirby with Squeak Squad, where we can touch grass, fire, and water all within the early parts of the first stage. Now onto Kirby's Epic Yarn, where we have to ask the question, is it really touching grass if everything is made of yarn? Well, between you and me, it's all the same, and the people who keep telling me to touch grass, they don't need to know. Throughout the first world, there's plenty of grass and plenty of water to touch, but there's no sign of fire anywhere. Oh, never mind, there's a yarn dragon at the end of World 1. Next up is Kirby Mass Attack, a game centered around eating fruit to levels that would put Yoshi to shame. And while there's plenty of grass to be found all across World 1, there's not much water and fire. For water, what we can do is touch some rain here in Stage 4. But fire is even more difficult to find early on in this game. The quickest method I found was actually to collect 15 medals to unlock this pinball minigame, then reach the third boss in that. The only problem is, I'm not very good at pinball. But after a few attempts, I was able to persevere and make it to the third boss, which leaves behind this fire we can touch. I still think this is the fastest way to touch fire in this game, but let me know if there's a better way. Now let's return to Dreamland with Kirby's Return to Dreamland. In this game, we actually begin by not touching grass, but if we head into Stage 1, hop down here and just press our face into this wall here, fire is pretty quick to touch in this one. There's a fire enemy in the first cave in Stage 1. Water is surprisingly hard to find though, despite there being so much in the background. It's not until completing the entirety of World 1 where we're able to find water in the stage select of World 2. On to Kirby Triple Deluxe, where we start off on some clouds and beanstalks, and also this ambiguous green stuff, which could be interpreted as grass, but just to make sure, let's take a few extra seconds to launch ourselves onto the real stuff. For fire, a little further ahead, we can get blasted in the face by our familiar friend. And for water, we'll continue on through Stage 1, making sure to devour a few entire trees along the way. On to Stage 2, where we can soak in this really convenient water bowl that was prepared for us. And we'll just put out this fire since we already touched some earlier. Now onto Canvas Curse's successor and the only claymation Kirby game, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. This game is like Acid Trip the video game, but once we get out of this house, we can touch grass right away. For water, let's make our way to Stage 1-3, where we can take a little drink from this waterfall here. And now for maybe the greatest challenge of this video, touching fire in the Rainbow Curse. Also, that guy. Just like Canvas Curse, I had never played Rainbow Curse until now, and as I was playing through it searching for fire, I found myself really enjoying it, much more than its predecessor. I think I just preferred the slower paced, more puzzle-like design of the levels in this one. Anyways, as I progressed through the entirety of Worlds 2 and 3, there's still been no sign of fire to touch, until finally in World 4-2, we're helped out by this giant pink, possibly French, robotic goose who blasts fire our way. Speaking of robots, next up is Kirby Planet Robobot, where we start off on a nice patch of metallic grass. Now let's go ahead and progress through the first stage, making sure to touch this little dragon's fire breath along the way. Now all that's left to do is to touch some water, but it turns out it's not so easy in this game. In Stage 2, we can become Parasol and spray some water droplets, but it doesn't look like we're actually touching any of those, so let's continue on to Stage 3. Here aboard this train, we can transform into a doctor and spray a mysterious liquid around us, but that's almost certainly not water, knowing Kirby's history of cruel and unusual punishment. So let's continue on through the rest of World 1 onto World 2. Eventually, we find ourselves inside a casino where we could get the ice ability, but I want something I can splash around in. So on we go through the entirety of World 2, still with no water to be found, until finally we reach World 3. Okay, if there's no water here, now on to Kirby Star Allies. I haven't played this game in years. I wonder if there's anything new. Looks like I may have missed a couple of things. Anyways, once we get into the game, we can touch some grass on the edge of this path here. After that, we'll continue along the first stage, and oh, perfect, there's our fire. Let's just go ahead and make a friend. Tilt the control stick up. Okay, got it. So yeah, this game is all about making friends, and it really sends a good message about the importance of treating everyone around you with love and compassion. Once we reach the second stage, we can make another friend and also touch water by inhaling and swallowing this guy whole. Finally, we've got Kirby in the Forgotten Land, where we actually start on a beach. Who knows how far away grass could be from here? Right. But first, let's touch some water, which I think is the first time we've been able to touch water or fire before grass. Then after that, we'll make our way towards the big city. Now here we'll utilize some of Kirby's signature abilities. Car, vending machine, traffic cone, until eventually we can touch some fire from our good old reliable friend over here. And now there's only one thing left to do. Become a staircase. And for the final results, here's how long it takes to touch grass, water, and fire in every Kirby game from slowest to fastest. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like these kinds of videos, consider subscribing.